Director of Sports role. So she will be dealing with all the liaisons between different academies and sports clubs, etc. So she'll manage all of our extracurricular activities, all of the competitions, all of our students who are competing for the school extracurricular opportunities. Obviously, during these COVID times, that is limited. The competitive sport is a no-go currently. The Dubai Sports Council, I've said no to that. So herself and myself are sharing the head of PE role until that director of sport role becomes available really in the current times. But you can see there, Miss Harty teaches FS2, Year 2, Year 3, Year 5 and Year 6. Mr. Moriarty, again, he's been here for a number of years. I think this is his 4th year. He's moved into a head of sixth form role, but is still very much teaching. And he teaches Year 2, Year 3, Year 4, Year 5 and Year 6. Miss McCulley is head of Year 10 and Year 11, but again, she teaches a full range of primary. So unless the students are in foundation stage, and Miss McCulley teaches the whole way through. Specialisms are in netball. She's a very great netball teacher, and she also plays football at a high level. So football and netball are her specialities. Mr. Moriarty's specialities, who was on the slide before, he heads up a rugby program at school, which unfortunately is non-existent during COVID, but we hope that that will resume shortly. Mr. Stone is, again, a PE teacher, and he's heading up the Duke of Edinburgh lead. Mr. Stone teaches through the full range of primary, and that is one of his specialisms. So he definitely is strong with the younger students, particularly at the lower end. So year FS2, FS1, Year 1, Year 2 is Mr. Stone's area of strength. Then we have got Miss Robinson. Miss Robinson is new to the school this year. She is a teacher of PE. She's also heavily involved with BTEC in the secondary school, but in the primary, she's teaching again the full range. So she will be teaching FS1 all the way through to Year 6. Miss Rayner, who is on maternity leave currently. Miss Robinson is here helping her with that. But Miss Rayner, again, when she comes back in January, will be teaching the full range. Again, fantastic teacher, specialises in netball and primary. She's really great with the younger years. So FS2, FS1, Year 1 and Year 2, we'll see lots of Miss Rayner. And then finally, Mr. Vyas, who is our PE technician. Mr. Vyas supports lessons throughout. He also manages the kit, he does equipment, he helps us set up for lessons, helps with special needs students. He's just sort of the glue of the department, we describe him as. So he supports and helps with all curriculum resources. So what does the curriculum look like? Now, first of all, I'm going to go through what it normally looks like, and then I'm going to tell you what it looks like now that we are in this new normal that Mr. Cooper mentioned with regards to COVID-19, dealing with that. So this is what the curriculum looks like without COVID. So in FS1, there's only one lesson a week. Students will experience. In term 1, we work heavily on the fundamental movement skills. So we're looking at their spatial awareness, jumping, hopping, rolling, changing direction, different levels, changing speeds, etc., etc. And then we also explore gymnastics. So again, fundamental movement skills in the early stages. We're looking at traveling, rolling, spatial awareness, balancing, movement to music, that sort of thing. In term 2, after the winter break, is when we focus on our sports day preparation. So the students will have lots of practice there in terms of athletics, but again, it's very basic athletics. Egg and spoon race, sack races, that sort of things. More based around fun than competition. Then the fun begins with FS. So in the next 6 weeks, we start looking at winning and losing. Now, obviously, there's lots of fears in this stage. What it's like to be competitive, what it's like to work in a team, strengths and weaknesses of working in pairs, small groups, etc. And our final term, we focus on swimming and outdoor games as the weather cools down. So then we're getting into a little bit more games-based, but the majority of that is spent on swimming. Now, those of you that are new to the school, swimming is a huge strength of the academy. We spend a lot of time focusing on swimming. We value it as a really important life skill. And also there we have learn to swim stages, so students progress all the way from level 1 to 7, and then they go to compete competitively right at our top end. We have a swimming centre of excellence where many top athletes are competing for the school. FS2, the curriculum, they experience 2 lessons a week, so that is a big difference, big step up from FS1. The main difference to that is that the second lesson of the week is primarily focused on swimming. So they'll have 1 PE lesson and 1 swimming lesson. During Ramadan, we don't swim, so that swimming lesson will become trampolining. But as you can see there, the PE lessons become a lot more structured at FS2. So we are looking at a bit more formalized gymnastics. We're exploring equipment in groups, boundary games, etc. Then we're getting into these invasion games, introducing invasion games. So a bit more competitive. We won't be doing things such as football and rugby at that stage, but I will be exploring ball games, working in teams, things like that. And then in the summer term, we look at rock climbing and striking and fielding. In Key Stage 1, so that's year 1 and 2, again, the second lesson a week is focusing on swimming. So we'll have 1 lesson a week dedicated completely to swimming. And in the other PE lesson, this is where PE looks like formalized sport, if you like. So we're introducing our invasion games in quite some detail now. So they'll be looking at basketball, they'll be exploring football, netball, cricket in the summer, rock climbing in the summer, little bit of tag rugby as well in lessons. So just fundamental movement skills, putting that into competitive environments. As you can see, there are athletics, our sports day will prepare for that. So they'll work on jumping, throwing, and running events. And then we're moving on to Key Stage 2, which is obviously the final key stage in primary. And this is when it is very formalized. And you can see there that we're into full competitive sports. There's very much still an emphasis on enjoyment and developing skills, but in a competitive environment now. So this does look like your structured sports. So we start with invasion games, and we have girls football, boys football, mixed basketball. Then we have rugby, athletics, inter-house games based around sports day. And in the summer, we've got your cricket, your rounders, your rock climbing, and then finally to finish with gymnastics. Now, students are taught in mixed groups up until year 2, where they'll split and they will go into, sorry, I think year 3 is a split this year actually, where they will teach in single sex classes. So then we'll teach boys and girls separately from year 3 onwards. So I can see a lot of your questions coming in, and I will answer those at the end. I'll just get through this presentation. Now, in terms of the extracurricular activities that we offer at primary, I think we are one of the schools out here that offers a huge range of extracurricular activities, many of which are free to the students that are run by the PE department, my PE department. Many of them are also paid, but a bit more diverse, things that we can't offer as a PE department. Extracurricular activities, you can see the list there on the screen. Netball, football, rugby, basketball, cricket, cross-country, athletics, and rounders are offered by PE teachers. So they will be free ECAs, where, again, we're talking about a time post-COVID. And then ballet, karate, judo, tennis, and aquathon are offered as part of our paid ECAs. Now, currently, no ECAs are running. This is advice from the Dubai Sports Council and DHA. We cannot run ECAs currently. There is a restriction upon that. currently at the academy. In regards to paid academies, they will be working, Miss Harty, sorry, is working closely with our providers, and we are looking to get them running as soon as possible. So we'll look out for those. As soon as we hear more from that, we will let you guys know, but we are looking to get our paid academies up and running as soon as we can in the school as an extracurricular club. So that will run from 310 onwards. Now, what facilities do we have? This is more for those people that are new to the school. Again, we're very lucky at WEC in that we have some fantastic sports facilities. As I mentioned before, we've got a fantastic swimming facility. We've got a swimming centre of excellence, so you would expect that our swimming facilities are top notch, and they very much are. We've got a baby pool for the beginners, and we also have 2 times 25-metre pools. In the curriculum, when swimming is happening, and again, we're not allowed to do swimming in the curriculum currently. There are ECAs happening at the school, but that is separate from the curriculum. There'll be lessons going on. We work with really small numbers. Ratios are very, very small. We have Hamilton that come and help us with our curriculum. So we're looking at group numbers of between 6 to 9 to 10 in a group of swimming. So with one teacher, very small numbers. With the beginners, it's even smaller. Some groups are as small as 4 in a group, which is great. We're really proud of that provision that we offer. We see students progressing really well in their swimming lessons. We've also got rock climbing wall, which comes in great in the hotter months of the year, especially during Ramadan, etc. Trampolining. We've got 2 full-size football pitches, which we use all year round, 3 outdoor netball courts, 3 tennis courts, 2 full-size basketball courts, a fully equipped gym. We offer some fitness within our curriculum, and as well as our exam courses when we get up to GCSE and A-level. Seems a long way away for primary, I know, but great facilities to use. And a studio where gymnastics happens, where ballet happens, etc. So how has COVID-19 affected PE? Well, I think it's placed a real importance on PE and what we deliver to the students, simply because they're sat down for long periods now at school, and obviously they've got their masks on in the classroom. So it's really important and placed a big role on the PE staff as an energizer for the kids to get that crucial exercise in, and a socialisation aspect. Now, obviously, we're very strict with the guidelines here. We've been adhering to all the guidelines set by the DHA. So what we've done is students are in bubbles. As you know, I'm sure, those of you that have had students enrolled for the past 4 weeks, and we're walking down those students in their bubbles. There are spots on the floor which are 1.5 metres apart on the walk down to the sports hall. So they'll be supervised by their teacher there. And in the sports hall, we have divided the whole sports halls into 2 by 2 metre squares, which are taped on the floor. Those students will make their way into their own square, which are 2 metres apart from other students, and they will remain in that square for the entirety of the lesson to ensure that they are safe and that we are adhering to the guidelines. Now, in terms of curriculum, obviously team games are off the menu, your invasion games also. So our curriculum currently is very much based upon fitness-based activities and fundamental movement skills. We are trying to drip feed through gymnastics, skills like that. But for example, with the little ones, we're doing lots of games such as musical statues, where they'll be moving around their box to music, and then we're freezing, they'll get into a position. We've been doing lots of fitness lessons where they're working on fundamental movement skills, as I've said, with hopping, skipping, but we're making it competitive and fun, competing in their houses. Simon Says activities, pirate challenges, lots of themed activities in the younger years to engage them. And on the whole, it's been really successful. And both the students and the teachers have really got stuck in and have really enjoyed PE. We found lots of enjoyment seeing the kids exercise and find happiness in that movement and being in a larger environment than stuck in their classroom. So that is how PE looks currently in COVID. With our secondary students, we have been doing alongside fitness. We don't feel like we can offer it yet, but it's possibly on the horizon. Sports like badminton, where students will only touch one piece of equipment in the lesson. So, for example, you'd be a maximum of 4 on a court. And if I was playing against a singles match against an opponent, we would both have a badminton racket each. We would both have a shuttlecock each, and we would only touch that equipment throughout the lesson. At the end of the lesson, all students are disinfecting their hands. All equipment is being disinfected by the PE staff at the end of every lesson with cloth and disinfectant. And then all the equipment used at the end of every day goes into what we call disinfectant pool. And then the site staff will clean that, or what we call a deep clean. They'll thoroughly clean that equipment for the next day. But as of yet, in primary PE, we are not using equipment simply because of the large numbers. Right, so now we're on to the question and answers. I'm conscious that obviously I've talked for a long time. I hope that was informative and that that has answered some of your questions and queries, but I'm sure there will be questions and answers. So I'm now going to have a look at the top of the screen here, and I will have a look at what has been put into the chat. And I will try and...
So there's only 2 questions at the moment, Sam, so it appears that you've answered a lot of people's queries, but the first one is, obviously, there's no swimming taking place. Normally there would be 1 swimming lesson a week and 1 PE lesson a week.
Yes.
What other activities are included? Now, I think you've already touched upon the activities. It's basically kind of not repetition, but progression from the first lesson of the week to the second. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, you are. So, so FS1 are the only group that wouldn't do swimming in the curriculum. Everyone else would normally experience 1 PE, 1 swimming. Obviously, this year that's different. So there's no swimming going on. So students are experiencing 2 lessons of PE a week. They will be in the sports hall. As Mr. Cooper said, the second lesson will very much be a progression of the first lesson, what they've worked on. So let's say it was fundamental movement skills, or they might have been doing a gymnastics routine. And the second lesson that week would be building upon what we have learned in that first lesson. Yeah.
Super. Thanks, Ms. Cole. And then a quick question from Emmanuel, just about what's the best way of returning sports kit at the moment, because children are obviously not allowed to move around school. How can they hand that back to the PE team?
Good question. If they could drop that off at either reception on their way in or with their form teachers.
Yeah.
I know this is an ask of the form teachers, but then if the form teachers could then let us know by email, then we can collect that. Because as you say, we don't want, well, it's not allowed for students to be wandering around by themselves, and they're maintained within their classrooms. So if they bring it in and give it to their classroom teacher, then their classroom teacher will inform us and we can collect it from them.
Yeah, that's great. There's a good question here. Is there a plan for a sports day? Obviously not in term 1, I imagine, and I think it's a tough question. I imagine we if we can, we will do, but that's all dependent on the regulations. But
absolutely, I would love to, and I very much hope and wish that we can. It is planned for the last week of term 1. So we're looking at December is when it is planned for. Whether or not that will go ahead because of the current restrictions, obviously the normal format that you had seen last year, if you attended, we will not be able to do in the current guidelines. If the guidelines change, which we hope they will, then we'll see what we can do is possible. But currently, it is planned for December. Let's see, fingers crossed.
Yeah. And then competitive sports. Nikki is asking just about competitive sports. So KHDA and the DSC, are they allowing competitive sports later in term 1 or possibly in term 2?
No is the short answer. Currently, no. We haven't been told anything further yet. The Dubai Sports Council have said no competitive sports as a blanket ban in the curriculums. So schools cannot compete in extracurricular. And there's this crossover when the paid academies come in. There is some competition going on, I believe, in these paid academies. So, for example, I know that IJF for football are going into some schools and they're doing some training. I know that Hamilton are going into some schools and doing training, but there's currently no competitive sports. As soon as we know, of course, we will let you guys know.
Yeah.
Of course, we will let you guys know. And we're desperate. We're desperate to get it back. We'll keep you informed as soon as we hear anything.
At the moment, just to expand a bit, I think the priority from KHGA, and this is just what we're getting a sense of, is obviously the priority is trying to keep schools open, and so that learning can take place in the schools. And so for school-based sports, they're being exceptionally cautious in what is allowed and not allowed, to ensure that there's not a chance that there is any positive cases or cases can spread within a school. Obviously, there's been isolated incidents in other schools around Dubai. And the key thing is that those isolated incidents don't spread. And I think that the priority right now is to ensure there's not a chance that those isolated incidents can spread within a school, in order to mean that year groups, classes, and the whole school potentially closes, has to stop educating the children on site for a period of time. With private companies that are not responsible for the education of the children over the day, they can obviously operate, and parents can opt for that if they want. But for obviously parents who want their child to be educated, but possibly less value competition less, and just, the priority is just getting the children educated. They don't want to put people in a situation where potentially that could be taken away because of competitive sport, etc. So I know private companies are obviously starting to look at that, and parents can opt for that as a choice. But obviously, where education is compulsory for all students, they don't want to put schools and the education system at risk of closure, basically, during this period of time. We want to try and keep the schools open at all times. And so there's a few other questions. Al Kamal, is that possible? Again, same answer as sports days. Any kind of group competitive or just fun runs, these type of things are not allowed at the moment. But again, if these regulations change, we want to do them, but we want to do them safely and when we're allowed to do them. There's a question about non-contact activities such as racing. I imagine what will help, and forgive me if I'm speaking out of turn, is that as the temperature cools, there may be opportunities for children to move outside and complete some sport outside. I don't know, would you want to expand on, is there an option in the future for children to kind of do?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. To answer that question, obviously the heat, as Mr. Cooper highlighted there, is an issue currently. After October half term is when we're hoping to move all the sports activities from inside to outside as the weather cools. So then we do have a bit more flexibility. Obviously, the curriculum would have to be very carefully planned there, but we are looking to do invasion games there. So the things like football, netball, if it's planned carefully, could go ahead. We're not talking about competitive games. We're talking about in small groups, more skill-based activities. So we could do passing and moving. Things like that. So there is a lot more flexibility once we can go outside, yes. But again, I don't want to make any promises yet because things do change, but we're certainly hoping to go outside after October and to expand our curriculum.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think what I reiterate with many parents is, for us as a school, again, our priority is keeping the school open and, not having to close classes and ask children to stay away for 2 weeks due to a case being, spreading within the school. And so it's always good to be overly cautious first and then take baby steps. For example, we now think we're in a place where we can open a library. It's taken a lot of work to ensure that we can operate the library in a safe way. The children won't be going in the library, but the books will be brought after being sanitized out for children to select one, take home, come back, sanitize. It's a huge process that needs to go through, but it's about taking those baby steps to really put things in place so that we can offer what we know, as much as what we would normally offer, as a school, but also make sure we're doing it exceptionally safely. So again, it's taking baby steps. So once the temperature cools, we can then look at, right, what can we offer for the PE and for the play times and break times, what can we offer our students to ensure they can get outside, they can keep fit, they can get fresh air, you know, all those things that we value so much, but at the moment are just not possible due to the temperature and the regulations. And we kind of, once we've solved one problem, we then look at the next one and slowly take those baby steps in moving forward. And I suppose that answers the question for Hassan, who's just asked about, obviously Hamilton are operating, and again, they're a private company opposed to swim squads. Because swim squads are tied to the school, we're not permitted to run them because KHDA's priority is keeping the schools open for education and classes. And so they're reluctant to operate any in-school kind of squads and sports competitions at this moment in time. Hamilton, a private company, that's an opt-in. Obviously, parents kind of pay and opt into those or opt into those clubs. And so it's a slightly different context in that the parents are choosing to opt into that, whereas in-school stuff, it's kind of compulsory for all students to do swimming, and again, the regulations are slightly different. So where private companies have a bit more flexibility, schools have a lot more regulations that they have to stick to for various reasons. But again, it's not that we don't want to do these things, it's just waiting for the right opportunity and the right time, and wait for the permission to allow us to take these next steps forward. No problem, Hassan. Does anyone else have any other questions? Sam, do you want to comment on anything that I've not mentioned?
I just think to summarise, there's lots of similar questions there. I think we've answered most of them so far, though. Anything in the curriculum is currently a no. As Mr. Cooper said, KHDA and the DHA are erring on the side of caution. Safety is the priority. These paid academies are going ahead. Parents are opting in, and that's great. I'm all for that if you feel that is safe and you're willing to do so. And I think students are enjoying that aspect. But ECAs within school and in the curriculum is a no. Paid activities are going ahead. As soon as we hear anything from any of those bodies that I've just mentioned, parents will be the first to know. We are raring to go. We're really excited to get back to normal PE lessons. We'll describe it as an extracurricular, but safety has to be the priority during this time. And we're erring on the side of caution not to rush in and then have schools and educational institutions closed.
Okay, well, so thank you very much. So I think that's the end of the questions. If you have got any more questions, pop them in the chat. We'll be happy to answer them. And again, if you do have any further questions that spring into your head after the session, then you know how to reach us via various emails or contact reception, and they'll put you in contact with one of the members of the PE department. I would just like to say a massive thank you to Sam and the PE team for everything they've done. It is certainly not an easy job in trying to operate physical activity and sport in the middle of a global pandemic, while trying to, if you were to turn around and say, right, we've got 50 children that are all going to turn up into a sports hall, and you need to keep them all 2 meters apart from each other, whilst also making sure they're having fun, feeling safe, and exercising. You can imagine the challenge that sets us. But the PE team have done a brilliant job. The children are loving PE, regardless of the fact that they can't, operate, access the same PE curriculum as normal. But they're enjoying being part of a community. They're enjoying exercising and they're enjoying getting down and using our brilliant facilities. So a massive shout out to the PE team and Sam for organising and pulling all that together, because it's a very difficult job. And thank you very much to you to parents as well for your support in that. It's been really beneficial in having children turn up with the PE kits, raring to go, and that's down to the parents as well, of engaging with our communication and tracking the timetables and making sure that all our children are ready for their PE lessons. So thank you very much to our parent community as well. I'm just reading, Emmanuel's just popped, which I think is a nice one. Thank you so much for the presentation. We need to be grateful to be able to go back to school for the moment and deal with this situation. Good luck for all the team for the year ahead. And then Victoria's put, PE team, thank you a lot for your hard work. And I think that summarises everything that I think the rest of our parent community and our school community are feeling towards the PE team at the moment. So thank you, Sam, for the presentation.
Thank you. And thank you, parents, for being here. It says a lot that you guys really do care about the progress of your children, and that you're ready to listen and take notes. So that's brilliant. Thank you, guys. And And the kids, I have to say, as you said, it was daunting given the restrictions that we're working under, but the students have been absolutely fantastic. They've all turned up with a big smile on their face. They've cracked on, and they're adhering to the rules very safely. And the main thing is they're enjoying it and they're keeping fit. So the win-win all round. And yes, we're doing well under this new normal, but I much prefer the old normal. So the sooner this goes away,
fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Like I say, if you do have any more questions, pop them in the chat. We'll hang around for a minute or so. But other than that, have a really good evening. Thank you very much for attending this event. I hope you enjoyed the Meet the Team events and meeting all the different members of our primary team and learning about the different curriculums that we offer. And thank you very much for your support. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.